Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.
Welcome to all.
History is made of stories.
In this episode, we'll be talking about the value chain concept and how it relates to job positions.
Some companies tend to adapt their organizational structure to suit the people and skills they have, but others do the opposite. They develop the organizational structure they believe to be ideal first, then go looking for the skills they need to fit it.
Taylorist organization fits into this second category. As the theory goes, there really is just one best way to achieve the hoped-for result, and it's based on a value chain outline which eventually comes down to positions. But how does it work? Jobs and the value chain, what's the story?
Let's start with a simplified definition of what a company does. Something comes in. Raw materials, for example, then it is somehow transformed, and something else leaves, to be purchased or not by customers.
That's the definition that underpins Porter's value chain model. The company is a process, a series of steps which transform inputs into outputs purchased by customers.
To ensure a company's future, it has to be profitable. The value of the output must be greater than that of the input and of its transformation. There are three possibilities for optimizing that ratio.
The first is to increase the price of the final product, but if it gets too expensive, customers won't buy it anymore. The second is to lower the cost of input, but there's a limit to that too. At a certain point, suppliers are no longer on board.
So, there's the third possibility, reducing the cost of the transformation of the input into output. In other words, productivity. We optimize the resources we use to get the result we want. That's resource-based theory.
To optimize productivity, we divvy up the transformation process. The idea is simple. We have a big problem to resolve, so we cut it up into little pieces. And the sum of each of them, resolved individually, will resolve the larger problem.
Michael Porter separates jobs into two categories: primary activities and support activities. Let's look a bit closer at the subcategorizations of primary activities. We start with a coarse division into the major components of the value chain.
In HR, we might be tempted to call them professions. You break down the process into research and development, methods for thinking about how we'll industrialize production, manufacturing, sales, and so on.
Each of these professions also needs to produce value. The value of whatever leaves the R&D department, for example, must be greater than the cost of what comes in and what the department does.
Imagine we're drawing pictures. If you draw ugly pictures, then you're just wasting nice white paper and wasting your time. You're destroying value. So each step in the chain works the same way the chain works as a whole: the cost of input, the cost of what you do to it, and the value of what leaves.
To further optimize the process, you continue to carve up the value chain, following the same rules. It's division of labor or process analysis.
When you can no longer subdivide the value chain, you've reached a level so detailed that you have to gather them back together. This is the smallest unit of value creation in a company, which is, of course, a specific position or job.
That's why we assess their value using evaluation methods like the Hay method. The weight of a job is its contribution to value creation, its place in the system.
Each position has input, the activity performed by the job holder, and output. If there's no creation of value, then the job is completely unnecessary.
In HR, this divvying up is structured into professions, benchmark positions, and jobs. A job, before we even discuss the people who do them, is the expression of a logic of resource optimization and productivity. Jobs are the smallest link in the chain. Any more detailed and you reach tasks. Precisely the type of thing you find in job descriptions.
To recap, resource optimization, aka productivity, is achieved by carving a process up into smaller activities. The value chain, the smallest link in the chain, is the job, which is the smallest unit of value creation. As such, you might say that every job is designed to achieve productivity. Is that right?
Exactly right. Way to make a long story short. Story RH, the podcast that makes a long story short.